Today's episode is with a former minor leaguer, Andrew Thurman. He's a buddy of mine, and he is now trying to be a professional golfer, and we get to that toward the end of the episode. But for the meat of the episode, we talk about his college career, and he was very successful in college before getting drafted to the Houston Astros in the second round. And then we talk about his pro career, and also he dealt with something crazy that happened during his career and something that happened to him and his team back in 2015 on an overnight bus trip. The little tease, you'll have to stick around to hear about that. But it's something that you wouldn't think would happen, but I'm surprised that it doesn't happen more just on the amount of times that these overnight trips happen in the minor leagues. So stick around for that. Got a great episode. As always, you can follow me on social media at Too Tall Sports Podcast. Plus, you can find me everywhere, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, and of course, Apple Podcasts. Please subscribe, rate, and review for whatever you can to help boost the show. We would greatly appreciate it. So with that, I give you my interview with former professional baseball player Andrew Thurman. Please enjoy. Ed, hit him with that music. All right, my next guest is a former minor league baseball player. He played his college ball at UC Irvine, and he was a second-round pick of the Houston Astros back in 2013. And he was also a two-time All-Big West selection in college, and of course threw a no-hitter against my school back in 2012. And his name is Andrew Thurman. What's up, Andrew? How you doing?
I'm good, bro. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, man. Glad to have you. Glad we could run you down and go over some of your career with you. So you grew up like me in SoCal, and was baseball always one of your passions, or did you play other sports as well?
Baseball was definitely my passion growing up. I did play other sports. My parents threw me in basketball and soccer and football in high school a little bit, but by and large, I was, at every summer baseball tournament growing up, every travel team, just traveling everywhere, really. So it was definitely baseball from the get-go and all the way through high school and everything.
Okay. And then when you got to high school, I mean, did you have other offers besides you went to UCI, as I mentioned, did you have any other offers that you were considering, or was it just dead set on UCI?
At the time, I think I verbally committed to Irvine as a sophomore. So at the time, I think the two that we were really considering were Fullerton and Santa Barbara. So between those, it was tough, obviously. I mean, Fullerton's such a great baseball school. Santa Barbara, you got the beach and everything right there. It's awesome. But for me, it felt like my dream one day was to go play minor league baseball, travel around, and do all that. So UCI was close to home. You still get kind of that beach feel and everything. And the coaching staff we really loved with Mike Gillespie. And it was just kind of a match in heaven, honestly.
Yeah, definitely. What did you think about playing in the Big West Conference as far as talent goes compared to maybe some other conferences or schools you played in different conferences?
I felt like it was right up there with any other conference, honestly. We traveled out of state, a few times. We played Baylor. We played, some teams who came in, the Pac-12 schools that came in on Tuesdays and stuff. And I honestly felt like it was right up there with them, seamlessly.
Yeah, I agree. I think, Pac-12, even we definitely competed with those schools for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So on April 20th, which for most people is a different kind of holiday, but for you, April 20th, 2012, you threw a college no-hitter against Long Beach State. What do you remember about that game or that day that kind of sticks in your mind?
That is funny. I didn't realize that was the day.
That's what I saw online. So I was like, oh, interesting.
That is interesting. It honestly wasn't. It didn't stand out in any other way from any other start. That we had. Went through the same routine. We hopped on the bus, went over to Long Beach, watched the guys take BP and everything, and just kind of throughout the course of the night, it kind of hit on me that this was happening, and it was just a blast. I remember it, and going through every out, especially the last couple innings. Skip came out, and he came out to the mound. I think it was in the 8th inning, I want to say, and he told me not to mess this one up like I did the last week. So he kind of gave me a little razz, but it was a blast.
It's a good thing pitching at Blair Field, huh? At nighttime.
Oh, I loved it. That and Irvine, they're both
Yeah.
huge, and you throw a little 2-1 changeup and a guy hits it up in the air, it's not going anywhere. So
Right.
it's perfect.
While you were in college, at least in the summertime, you got to play in Cape Cod that I saw 2 summers, I believe, right?
Right.
What was your experience out there? I've heard great things from former teammates that actually got to play out there, as far as the competition goes and just in general, the league. What did you think about it during your time there?
I loved it. I loved every second of it. I was blessed to have a great host family. I lived with uh, probably 4, 5, 6 different guys over the course of 2 years, and they were all great. Loved every second of it. The fans, um, gosh, we'd get 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 fans a game at these little high school parks, essentially.
Yeah.
And the competition was great. I mean, the hitters were the best in the country, and the pitching was the same. And I absolutely loved it.
No, I
Yeah,
agree. That's
some of my
what I've
best
heard.
memories there for sure.
Yeah. And did you feel like once you left after each summer, could you tell that you were getting better or that you were getting closer to being, one of the premier college pitchers?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
it definitely refined who I was as a pitcher. Being able to just going through the competition and having to be on your game. You're thrown in front of 10, 15 scouts a game as well, so you really have to dial it in and be on your game. So I absolutely think it helped me with that.
Yeah. And it probably helped leading up to the draft in 2013. You went in the second round. Did you feel like that was where you were going to be slotted, somewhere like 1 through 4, somewhere in there?
That's kind of the idea that we had going into it. We at the time thought maybe we'd slip into the back of the first, but as it kept going and going, we kept hearing Houston. It was either going to be Houston or Chicago at that 2-1, 2-2 turn right there,
Uh-huh.
and it ended up being Houston, and I couldn't have been more happy.
Yeah. As far as the draft day goes, do you remember kind of how that went?
Oh, it was so much fun. We my family and a lot of my teammates from UCI, we came up, and they have this. It's a little a box, basically, big screen TV, and they got the trophies set up from past World Series teams in there, and a bunch of chairs. We got pizzas, and we just had a little bit of a party in there. And once my name came up, I hugged my mom, hugged my dad, and hugged teammates and stuff, and it was a great memory.
Oh, I bet. And so switching from college to pro ball, how did you kind of handle that transition? Was it different for you? Was it hard, or was it just like business as usual? I'm still going to pitch as I always do.
It was, I mean, it's different, no doubt. You're not, for me, I wasn't close to home. I wasn't around my friends and family. So that was a big change. But at the same time, the guys you meet and the coaches you have, they make that transition easier. And it was just fun. You're playing ball for a living, man. It's every kid's dream. And so once we got over that sort of a thing, it was seamless, and I enjoyed every second of it.
Did you feel like it was, you could tell right away it was more of a business versus college? You're just kind of playing, having fun with your teammates, and now it's like a real job.
Yes, absolutely. I would say college baseball was, it's definitely different. You're collective, and you're getting together, and you want to win the game, and that's the most important thing. And at the end of the day, in minor league baseball, that's not the case.
No.
As much as you want it to be. It's about going out and performing to the best of your ability, and however the game goes, the game goes. So, but in that aspect, it was fun. You're competing, and it's a job, and it's hard, but we all enjoyed it.
Yeah. Did your mindset change when you started facing wood bats versus metal in college?
I don't really think so. I think it kind of stayed the same.
Yeah.
I remember back in high school, we played a random wood bat tournament or something like that, and everyone thought it was gonna be different. And I was like, it's kind of the same to me. I mean, if a guy gets one, he's gonna get one either way. So
Right. Yeah, as far as from what I was, taught going in, you have to start throwing inside a lot more with wood bats because they break. and guys
Right.
like it in there. So that was, I guess, one change I could think of. But other than that, you just pitch how you pitch.
Some guys can get to that inside pitch, so
Yeah.
sometimes that didn't really even work out.
I guess it depends who it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were with the Astros for a couple of years, and then in the offseason of 2015, you got traded to Atlanta. I was traded also during my career. How did I took it as it's a new opportunity, whatever the team, I guess you could say they gave up on you or it was just part of the business. How did you take it when you got traded?
From what I remember, I think at first it was sort of a shock. You get attached to this team. Mom buys every coffee coaster, coffee cup with Houston Astros on it. And now we got to switch that up. So
Right.
from that standpoint, it's a little bit different. But at the same time, you get an opportunity with a team that obviously wanted you to be a part of their organization. And that was how it was with the whole Gaddis trade and everything. So I was excited and happy about the opportunity the Braves gave me.
Definitely. So I guess something crazy that I get you would think would never happen, but it's always possible. In that year, 2015, in the middle of May, your team was traveling, I think, overnight, and you were playing in Carolina, and your bus flipped over and the driver must have missed a turn or something like that. What happened that night, and what do you remember about that whole situation?
Yeah, we were going from I forget, somewhere in Virginia. We were playing the Red Sox affiliate, and we were heading to Myrtle Beach. And it was about 2-3 in the morning. We just got done with the game. We got on the bus, and we had this 5-hour trip out there. And we were getting off the freeway, so we're all waking up, kind of, and we all look at our phones and we see that we're still like 45 to an hour away, and we're like, what in the world is going on? So we get back on the highway, and not 20 minutes later, we're dozed off a little bit, and we start hearing screams like from the front of the bus. The bus driver, she was yelling. The coaches, they started yelling, and next thing we know, we flip over. So we're driving along, we get on our side and get kind of up towards the top and then settle back. And, everybody's screaming, hollering, and trying to figure out what's going on. Thankfully, nobody was seriously hurt, which was incredible, but it was definitely a wild experience.
Yeah, like I remember, like coaches in the front would just kind of try to either one of them would stay awake to talk to the bus driver, just keep them up. Like you could feel it sometimes overnight. Some of these bus drivers, they get tired, and you
Oh,
can
yeah.
feel them like off the road and kind of hitting the side, and you're like, oh shit, are we gonna.
Yeah, you
But
hear stories about it all the time.
you never think it's actually going to happen though. So I couldn't imagine what that was like. And I think you did have some injuries though coming from that, right?
Yes, I did. You kind of, like you said, nobody thinks about it. Everything kind of happened in slow motion. You just see it kind of, it was wild. But no, I cracked 3 of my ribs and slightly tore, I forget which little thing in here, but some sort of ligament. So I was out. I didn't touch a ball for about maybe month and a half, 2 months almost. And then everything started to feel good, but later to be known, it kind of wasn't. So, but everything happens for a reason, and yeah, it is what it is.
So after the year later, you come back in 2016. You're in Double-A Mississippi for the Braves. Where did you feel your career was at, kind of physically, mentally, in your body? Like, did you feel like you were back to normal a year later?
I felt like I was mentally, and working through the rest of that season and the off season. Mechanically, just didn't feel right, or normal, I should say. And I think over the course of time, being as young as I was, and you get in this mindset of not wanting to. You don't want to be that guy who sits on the DL. You don't want to be that guy who has things linger. You want to get back out there and work it. And to me, it just felt like I maybe rushed it, but not at the time. Looking back on it now, obviously. So just mechanically felt off, and it took me a long time to figure out what it was. And unfortunately, during 2016, it did not happen whatsoever. I started walking the house and didn't know where the ball was going. And yeah, so.
Did you ever find out kind of what the main was? It just you never addressed the injuries that you had, or you just didn't realize it?
I just didn't realize it, I don't
Yeah.
think, because we were working back and I didn't have any pain necessarily, but uh, throughout the process, something happened where I was either lowering and I just could not figure out where the slot was going. And once I did try to get back up there, that's when I did start experiencing some issues. So later on, we addressed it with physical therapy, and it actually worked out for the best.
Yeah. And then after that 2016 season, I think you ended up playing for the Dodgers the following year in 2017, right?
Yeah, so I got released by Atlanta. I want to say like in August of 16. Came back and immediately went to therapy. And yeah, the inside of the shoulder was super weak, um, and I had no idea that it was super weak, which was interesting. But so yeah, we crushed physical therapy for the next 4 or 5 months leading up to that off season. And I got a call from Gabe Kapler. I was going back to school at the time, and Gabe he gave me a call, and we talked a few times over the next like week or so about the beginning of December, and yeah, ended up offering me a contract, so I signed with them and played that whole season with them.
Yeah, and at the time, I think Gabe Kapler was the player development guy for the Dodgers,
Yeah, yeah, I forget all their
or a minor league
titles,
coordinator, one of
minor
those.
league
Yeah,
coordinator. Yeah, one of those things.
yeah,
Great guy. I really enjoyed him.
yeah. And I think from what I saw, you put up pretty good numbers that year in 2017, right? In high A
Yeah,
and double A.
yeah, everything felt good. Kind of everything got back to normal, and they have a very advanced way of analyzing everything, from strength to spin rate, and all that stuff. And it definitely helped. I really benefited from being with them, and my arm and body felt better, and um, I threw well, which I was extremely happy about. To know that I could get back out there and be kind of what I was.
Right. They just didn't give you a shot, sounds like, after double A.
Yeah, I don't know, to
Yeah.
be honest. I felt like I threw well enough to kind of get back out there and have another year with them or something. But I think at that time, Cap and the regime who kind of oversaw that, they moved on. I think he went to Philly that year or something along those
Yeah.
lines. So I mean, a lot of minor league baseball, in my opinion, is kind of where you're at, and the opportunity that's around you, and who likes you, and who's gonna stand up for you. You can work as hard and everything like that, but at the end of the day, it's a lot of timing, a lot of hard work, and hopefully everything works out.
Yeah, I tell this to people a lot. Like, once you leave your original team that drafted you, it's tough to make it with that new organization because they got their guys already. They
Right.
got money behind guys already. So
Right.
it's tough.
Yeah, which is no fault of anybody's. It's just kind of the way it is, and
Yeah.
you got to keep going.
Right. Now, you just out of curiosity, you got to kind of pitch during the, I guess, newer, because I was done in 2014, so I didn't really get to see all the crazy analytics. But did you notice it toward even like the end of your career?
Yeah, with the Dodgers, they were big into Rapsodo and TrackMan numbers and everything. We detailed pitch by pitch analysis of every outing. You could get the spin rate, the sequence, the pitch, every 2-1 slider you threw in the game. You could watch and see how guys react on it, and it kind of blew my mind. And it was yeah, just so interesting coming from college and my first few years of pro ball where that wasn't a thing. So I can only imagine how much further it's come in the next 2-3 years.
Oh, yeah. Now, are you one of the guys that liked a lot of that information, or were you just like, leave me alone, let me pitch?
I would say I was kind of in the middle of it.
Okay.
If something's working, don't change it.
Right.
But at the same time, I think it's beneficial to know maybe why something is working the way it is. For me, pitching, growing up, every coach I had was telling me, you got to throw this ball down and a fastball, down and away, down and away, down and away. And I'm finding that a lot of time I'm throwing that pitch down and away, and it's just getting smoked to right field, I'm not sure why. And the Dodgers actually explained that the spin rate I had on my fastball, it was higher, so essentially that it stayed on its plane longer. And actually, the high fastball guys would actually swing underneath it a lot of the time because they were expecting it to be lower than it actually was. So that was one thing I learned from that, which was interesting.
That's crazy because I would never think about, like, obviously, yeah, the spin rate is, the harder you throw it, kind of like in golf, like the ball is going to do different things with spin rate.
Yeah.
But like, it's just crazy that kind of information is out there now where you can be like, well, okay, so for instance, how do you change that?
Yeah, how do you, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Maybe widen your fingers up or something. Or
Yeah. That's like the physics side of baseball is just insane.
Yeah, it is taking off big time.
Yeah. So I also saw that you played independent ball kind of your last year. How was that process?
It was interesting. Yeah. So once I didn't get a call back from the Dodgers, me and my agent, we hopped on the phone and started calling clubs. And I went out to first one I went out to was out in the Atlantic League. And the name's escaping me right now, but basically I called them and asked if they had any spots, and they said you can come to this open tryout. So I rolled up to this open tryout, and it was what day was it? I think it was either the end of February or early March, and it was freezing. It was cold. It was probably like 40 degrees. And, guys are pitching in sleeves, and I hated pitching in sleeves. I can't do it. Right. I feel so restricted. But that was the first thing I went to, and I pitched well there. And the manager came up to me and said, our roster's full, but we'll give you a call. And I said, okay. So then I got back on the phone and called some teams in the American Association, and finally landed on the Sioux City Explorers. So me and my mom, we took a drive out California to Iowa. We stopped in, where did we stop in? Colorado, Denver. Yeah. So went out there and basically had a tryout for about a month. It was almost, we were playing games and stuff, and it was wild. And it actually didn't end up working out. So I drove back, and that actually the same day that the coach called me and told me I was released.
Yeah.
My mom called me the same time and said she has cancer. So I came home and didn't end up trying to look to play baseball anymore because I needed to be home to take care of her.
Right. No, yeah, that's a difficult phone call to have right there.
Yeah, it was back to back too. And I was like, good Lord, what in the world is happening?
Yeah, that's got to be hard. Yeah, us California boys, we're not really suited for pitching in the cold that often.
No, I hated it. My first year in Quad Cities in the Midwest League, opening night was, I want to say it was like 32 degrees. And I was pitching that night. I went like 4 and gave up 5. And I was like, this is the worst thing that could happen. The next night was like 3 or 4 degrees warmer, and they canceled it. They canceled the game because, they got to play opening night.
Oh my God.
but my ERA just shot up. So fun.
I know that league very well. I played in Clinton, so in the same area, Clinton, Iowa.
Oh, Clinton.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
City. Worst city in the world.
It's just that's a tough park.
Yeah, it is. So I know Quad Cities is right on the river too.
Yeah, great ballpark. Loved it. But it got cold, and then when it got hot, and all the bugs and stuff coming off the river. Whew.
Yeah, that's a different world. So once you're done playing, I've played golf with you before, so I know you can play a little bit, but I didn't know you were as good as you are now. You decided to get really into golf. So what's the latest on your golf situation?
Yeah. So once baseball was over, I felt like I still wanted to compete in something and do something along the lines that, I've grown up doing and I've always loved doing. And I've been playing golf ever since I was a kid, and I still, play all the time with my pops and everything. And it was something that I wanted to give it a shot. I felt like I was still relatively young enough to, and I've been playing for the last about year or so in pretty much every amateur tournament that I can in Southern California. And up until recently, with all the COVID stuff going
Right.
on, I was getting ready to join the Golden State Tour and start playing in a little bit more. Their pro tournaments are not quite up the ring of Corn Ferry or anything like that, but yeah, just start giving it a shot, getting out there and playing as much as I can, and it's a blast. I love it, and I love the people that I've met through it, and it's a lot of fun.
Do you feel like mentally you have an edge over some of the guys that just played golf their whole life and they were just a one sport athlete? Do you feel that at all?
I think so. I think that pitching, to me, it relates a lot to golf because when you're pitching, you see a swing. Say you throw an 0 fastball, you see a swing, you realize the guy's late on something, but basically you have to analyze what's going on off that swing. In the same way in golf, once you hit a shot, you have to then put that shot behind you because that's in the past. You can't do anything about that. You got to focus on this next one and read it in every way that you can to try and give yourself the best chance. So for me, and in baseball, you're doing that and pitching in front of 5,000 people and screaming in your ear. In golf, you just got your own head to deal with. So I think
Right.
it's a little bit on the same wavelength.
Yeah. Do you feel like do you feel behind at all, or do you feel like you can definitely play with these guys? You had to take a bunch of time off because you played baseball, but these guys, have been doing it their whole life. Do you feel like you're at their level?
Yeah, I do. I honestly do. I feel like I can go out and play with anybody, honestly, and it's a blast.
Yeah.
Um, Consistently wise, I don't think I'm quite there yet, but given the amount of time that I've actually been trying to do this, I think it's come a long way in the last year, which is I'm excited about.
Oh, that's great, man. I'm sure you've been watching the golf tournaments lately. What are your thoughts on no fans at the tournaments?
They're going to lose a lot more balls, I think. Those guys get lucky with all the fans around there sometimes, finding everything. It's interesting though. You hear every little mess up that those guys have, and you get to get the little sound bite. But it's interesting. It doesn't seem like it's affecting them too much. They're still going out and firing some low numbers. So maybe the crowd doesn't really have as much to do with it as you think.
I think Jordan Spieth said it's easier, he thinks, with no fans, like nobody bothering you. You can just focus on golf. I mean, maybe that
Yeah.
is true.
Yeah. No, I can definitely see that.
Yeah. And since you play for the Astros, I have to ask, what are your thoughts on the whole 2017 Astros scandal?
With the trash cans and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it doesn't surprise me. I think guys are, the amount that video is coming into the game, I think it was bound to happen sooner or later to somebody. And I would honestly be surprised if the Astros were the only team who were doing it, to be honest. Um, I think it's terrible for the game. I think it's completely disingenuous. And I honestly don't think Major League Baseball did enough to punish them. But that's not my job, I guess.
I agree. Like they, took money off a lot of guys' tables for, that year.
There's a lot of guys who, were negatively affected just as much as they were positively. And you don't hear about those guys. I remember seeing the interview with Freddie Freeman. It's one of his buddies. I forget the name of the pitcher, but he went up, got his one shot, threw like a third and gave up 7, and see you later.
Right.
But no, I think it's a complete, just horrible thing that the entire thing is.
Yeah, definitely. So when's your next, what are your next tournaments coming up you got?
We got the Southern California Amateur Championship. It's I want to say it's the end of July. That's the next one that's coming up, and then the SoCal Mid Am is I think that next weekend in Mission Viejo. So yeah, both of those are coming up about a month or so.
Where can we follow you if we want to check out your scores and all that stuff?
All the scores. I need to get something going on that. Yeah, I need to start. My girlfriend, she's big on. She works social media and everything, so I told her she needs to, start firing this thing up, and we need to get this social media presence going.
Okay. Well, yeah. When I get the link from you or whatever, I'll put it out and so people can
Absolutely.
follow you. But well, I appreciate you coming on, man. Best of luck, and hopefully you can become a professional golfer and start dominating.
Thank you. I appreciate that.